hard, Mike. I work so hard. I mean, I worked so hard to.
Sorry, the stream's not the highest quality. Just kind of rushed here. This is a really important story here with James O'Keefe, so I decided to go ahead and go live anyways. Thanks for tuning in if you are tuning in here.
Publish the story, that's when we celebrate. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could think about it and you look at the numbers and go, wow, that's a big.
Just gonna go ahead and share the link here.
I can do that. Hell with that guy. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't work in private equity. He doesn't know management. He's not even good at Harvard MBA. I'm gonna go in there and do that. I bet it was very painful, but it was necessary.
Just gonna select a thumbnail for the stream.
Evolution of what I'm about to do.
I would be willing to bet that the near absolute majority of people who have given to Project Veritas, if they heard a story about James O'Keefe boarding a private jet to fly down for a vacation in Miami Beach with a nice suit and sunglasses, they'd be laughing and clapping, being like, this is exactly what the man deserves it. This is success. This is victory. If someone like James O'Keefe can live in style with the work that he does, we're on the right track.
Absolutely.
So the idea that you simply driving in a car was somehow offensive or detrimental to the organization is laughable to me. What I was saying before is, look, if you launched a private company and from the get-go, and you brought in members and you ran it as a membership, like you're doing now with OMG, you post a picture of yourself, top G, getting on a private jet with a Bugatti or whatever, and people would be going like, yes! Like, not only are we winning, but James is flaunting his success to show all of the corruption and to inspire young people that there's a path to success.
Well, Elon Musk says
yeah, someone could take it that way.
Transportation is the one thing that can maximize your time because you can have 2 meetings or 3 meetings in a day. Like there was one.
Oh, absolutely.
I woke up in New York, I had a meeting. I went to Wisconsin, I had a meeting, and I had Arizona. I had 3 meetings in one day. And you're running a company. You have this, you're spending $100,000 a day. Your time. This is basic economics. It's so valuable that it becomes imperative for you to get from this point to this point. Obviously, everyone knows that. But Tim, we did a story on OMG. Speaking of my new company, we did a story on at the FEC. We knocked on doors, and we just knocked on doors. It was expensive. We had to go to Maryland. We got to go here. We got to go there. But now citizens are knocking on doors. They're inspired. They're running around the country. What can I do? It's a fraction of the budget of these media corporations, and we're still getting results. So
this is what people need to realize. The path to luxury, wealth, comfort, high society has typically been for a long time garbage. It has been people going on TV with big fake butts, and that's fine if you like it. I got no beef.
I don't really understand Tim's point here.
I always ask myself, how come firefighters don't get paid more money? Oh, it's like, we can't put it in the budget. Police salaries are super low. These leftists want to abolish the police. They complain about cops. Like, well, cops don't get paid very well. It's not a job people want to do and feel good and safe doing. It's high risk. Yet, sports athletes, celebrities get paid ridiculous amounts of money. And the person who is in a movie posts a video of themselves boarding a private jet with a fancy Dom Perignon or something, and everyone says, if I want to succeed and have wealth and luxury, you have to be a vapid pop culture salesman.
There's a lot more here that I could say that I'm not going to, because there's a lot more here. I don't want to get into the. There's some things I could tell you that would make you go, what?
Go ahead, go into it, James. Break it down.
I don't want to be goaded into going there, because I think that's what the intent is here, to try to get me to do. But there was something about, like, people should be making the same money, or there shouldn't be a disparity of the CEO shouldn't be having a different form of security versus this guy here. Well, this guy's getting attacked and his life's threatened. So do we want to get paid equally? So some of this doesn't make a lot of actual sense.
Institutional capture.
I mean, the Southern District of New York is where the FBI raided me. So now I'm being sued in the SDNY.
Narcissism on the boards.
Jury trial in order to issue an injunction against me to stop exposing corruption by the organization that I founded, which stated mission is to expose corruption, and they've issued an injunction to stop the founder from exposing corruption.
They issued an injunction,
they filed a lawsuit to request the federal court courts to stop investigative reporting. Like I always say, like if you brought this stuff to Netflix, they would like laugh at you. Like, this is crazy shit. But just another day in my life.
Just to wrap up my last point, we should be happy to see James relaxing on a private jet. We should be like, you do good work, you stand up for something honorable, you help this country, you get rewarded for doing it. Instead, and I don't mean to just put this on you. It's something everybody has in their mind that if you're going to do nonprofit work, you should be poor. And not literally every single person, but I used to do nonprofit fundraising. And I have to explain to people, they're like, did you hear the CEO of that nonprofit gets paid $1 million? And I was like, good, wow.
Which nonprofit? I didn't know you did that.
Oh, I did fundraising for a whole bunch. I did fundraising for Greenpeace, I worked for the...
$1 million to be the CEO of a nonprofit?
Some of those are 501c4s.
He had hidden cameras there.
It's unfortunate.
Saw you working.
You would be surprised. It's actually a good place to probably have some.
I think you're right, Tim. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a helicopter. I mean, taking a helicopter home. I know people who do that. I won't name them, but that's a standard industry practice if you're a 20, 30, 40, $50 million company. You get home so you can get a good night's sleep, so you can wake up fresh and go to work and go to meetings and go travel.
But it's just part of business. I think the issue is that people look at things like hopping on a private jet or a private car as luxury instead of necessity.
Well, what is the root of all socialism? What is the socialism? Envy.
Yeah.
Envy. What is socialism really about? It's about envy.
It's
about hating the guy who's achieving something and successful, tearing him down. When in reality, what we should be doing is lifting everybody up.
But my point is this: it's misplaced.
You might say it's like competition,
so
really.
I get a request like, "Hey Tim, we want you to fly out here and come on this show."
It's that
I'm like,
competitive.
"Okay, I'll only fly
That
6
person
hours."
has something. I need to
It's
have
not
that.
because I'm like, I
Just go for that person now.
Exactly.
It's because, okay, I'm gonna be working 16 hours today. I can catch a red eye after work. But I gotta go to bed. I'll sleep on the plane, which barely works, and I wake up feeling like crap. But I'm willing to do that.
It sounds like envy to me.
Yeah.
That's an envy thing, which has no place in strategy or corporate governance or anything like that. That's an emotional thing.
Well, tell us about OMG now.
OMG has been very successful. Got my swag here. OMG, O'Keefe Media Group, so that when they type in OMG, it can't be censored because it's a commonly used acronym on social media.
That's brilliant.
This is a very ambitious vision, which is to effectively create Uber for journalism. So instead of just everyone being on my payroll, I want to equip everyone to go do what I do. So I get hundreds of messages a day. Please investigate the school board in Utah. I had a lot of Canadians message me today. That was interesting. And what we want to do is equip them, give them cameras, and to go have them go do this, and open source my knowledge. So everything I've learned about what I do, I'm producing a series of master classes on ethics, law, technology, and I'm teaching people how to do this because I think it does require some skills. It requires being trained and educated, and I'm going to open source that. I'm going to put it behind a paywall.
This is brilliant.
OKeefeMediaGroup.com. You can subscribe. It's $20 a month, and you can get access to this information. We have a database of like 1,100 people, and we're deploying them. And we're doing, as I speak, they're in the field recording. Follow-ups on Pfizer, the FDA, the government, the deep state, the administrative state, the three-letter agencies, school boards, teachers, media companies. We want to help everyone, but when people say, hey James, can you please go do this story? Now I'm saying, no, you go do that story. It's on you. I'll give you a camera. I'll ship you a $500 camera. I'll teach you, but you got to figure it out. Because I can't do it all myself. It's not sustainable. One of our biggest stories is now getting Congress to act. This is the Act Blue donations that were being funneled.
Individuals with like 10,000 donations on their name and things like that. That's crazy. How did you find out about that?
That was found out by a citizen journalist in Wisconsin, Election Watch. Peter is his name, and he just went on the FCC website and said, well, that's odd.
This one guy,
modest guy in Annapolis, has made like 10,000 donations, and I just went to knock on his door. And they said, well, I'd like to donate that many times, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So it's leading to congressional action now.
Yeah, right on.
I mean, imagine if the rest of the media actually
As it should.
did that and followed those leads instead of publishing articles on why Star Trek was racist.
But that's the thing. Writing an article about Star Trek being racist
Clicks.
is super easy.
Money. Yep.
And what's happening is this kind of media is becoming dominant, and then it results in surface level understanding of the world, hyperpolarization, and people focusing on things that are substantially less important. You get YouTube channels where they're like, we're going to make our 160th video about Dave Rubin. And I'm like, but Dave Rubin's a guy on YouTube. Like, you can talk about the president. I think we talked about David Pakman, and I unfairly criticized him for talking about Trump so much, and now I realize, no, that's actually fine. Like, if you're going to talk about the president 1,000 times, I totally get it. You're right. You should. If you're going to talk about AOC, if you're going to talk about people in positions of power and authority, heads of industry,
What point are you
I
making, Tim?
understand. If you're going to claim that
Get
a
to your
YouTuber
point.
who ranks at like number 1,000, no, that's just vapid e-drama. But it's easy to make. It riles people up at the lowest common denominator. It makes money, and it's very difficult to do the research.
People
to
want to
groundwork.
hear their opinion being uttered by somebody else, but that doesn't actually change anything. I mean, why don't journalists do this? My theory is they don't do it because if you actually point a camcorder or a hidden camera in any direction in a bureau or a government office, it'll contradict what you see on television.
Yeah.
Like reality contradicts narrative. And the other thing is, I think I've always said that we hold a mirror up to people and they don't like what it is that they see. They hate the person who holds the mirror up to them. So, I mean, going back to the citizen journalist thing, we had people that are so humble that we reached out to them. This Texas people I was speaking to, there's a group of people exposing something local in Texas, and she was shocked that OMG, that James O'Keefe would send her a camera like, well, you're going after like Pfizer and the Pentagon and the deep state, so why would you talk to us? Like, well, you got to start local, got to go to your local school board meeting, right? Tim, you were downstairs with me, and I was on the Twitter Spaces, and someone said, well, I don't know where to start. I said, have you gone to your school board meeting yet? She said, no, I didn't know I could. Don't I have to have a kid in school? I was like, no, you're a taxpayer. Go to your school board meeting.
Yeah.
Put on these little cameras and talk to people in the hallway and see what you come up with. So we're starting there.
Do you hire them, or do you have them as contractors, or do you just
No.
send them stuff to start?
We have a form on our website, o'keefemediagroup.com. You click on the link, and there's a citizen journalist request form, and we just ship them a camera, provided they're not insane or stupid. Insane or stupid. We'll send you a camera, and you'll have to maybe perhaps sign a waiver, and then we'll pay you. We had a young woman in Minnesota record her official in college saying, "Shh, don't."
I don't know where he gets the financing for this.
As your roommate, but we won't
I guess
tell
from
you
donations.
again. Saying this to her, and she recorded it,
Wow.
and we paid her $1,000.
On one hand, it's like the nanny state model.
Well, I think that's a
On the other
very
hand,
important mission.
this type of activism
because
is
you're putting a lot of
investigation
emphasis
is
on what's
essential.
happening at the local level, and it's good to focus on national politics. Obviously, everyone in this room does that, but for individual people in any given community to be involved with their school board, and then also be able to see like undercover journalism on what's going on at their school board, I think is incredibly valuable.
I think so too.
It's so necessary, dude. All I want is, because I'm a big fan of Veritas. The people I know at Veritas, I love them. The people I've met. The people, I mean, obviously you're like my brother. I mean, I don't know. I know each other pretty
Band of Brothers.
Yes.
You did Henry the.
The Simple Few,
yeah.
4-part
The Simple
2,
Few,
yeah.
Yes.
And I want you guys to succeed, O'Keefe. Why do you think that there's a way for these organizations to both just keep firing on all cylinders?
Absolutely. I wish them well. I hope they do what they do. I want everyone to do this. I think everyone should do this. I don't think people should stop people from doing this. I don't think we should. I don't think it's. I think it's against.
That's all PV can do at this point. To try to stop James.
Trying to use the federal courts to stop journalists. I've been sued so many times in my life. I had the teachers union in Michigan file an injunction against me in 2017. Randy Weingarten actually filed a restraining order against me because I published a document showing they paid off $50,000 to someone who's accused of raping a child.
Wow.
And they issued an injunction in federal court against me. Now, I defeated that injunction.
They were demanded an injunction.
Well, they initially got it.
Wow.
It was a temporary restraining order in federal court in Michigan. This is still going on. 5 years later, I haven't settled the case. Now, I'm not in charge there anymore. But you see what's at stake here?
Oh, so your house, like, okay, Veritas, all yours.
Well, no, but I didn't want that to be the case.
No, I know, yeah.
But whoever is in charge has to now deal with this dichotomy of, okay, I gotta raise ridiculous amounts of money to fight on principle, or I can settle and give up. So in Michigan, this was a document where it was paid off 50 grand. We got the guy hitting camera saying he knows what he did. We publish a story, we get sued, no one comes to our defense. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm deposed, I go through depositions in, with these lawyers for the teachers unions, and that's its own form of torture. But that's the price you pay.
So for this company, OMG, for O'Keefe Media Group, is it like, you're obviously private right now, do you have any ambition to take it public?
That's such a, I'm taking it one week, 1 month at a time, probably not. I mean, I have trust issues right now
Yeah.
with ownership. I 100% own it. I haven't taken on any debt. No equity. We had a very successful launch. We have thousands of paid subscribers, which is pretty good for an organic launch.
Yeah.
And we'll take it from there. We do have a 501c3 and C4 that I'm not on the board of. I posted that link to my Twitter. Liberty Guard's a C4. They're going to help pay for legal defense to pay for lawyers, and Private Citizen, which is a 501c3. Liberty Guard and Private Citizen, if you want to donate and get a tax deduction to help pay our legal costs, you can donate.
Hope that's not an opportunity for infiltration.
With them, do you work
Who
with
knows?
them?
No, their boards their mission is to defend citizens who are being under attack and being silenced.
We hope.
Like in this case. So they'll take donations to support paying the attorneys.
So it's just insane how much of this is lawyers and just legal fees.
Non-stop.
Attorneys.
People have no idea.
I did. I mean, well, I knew that for what you were doing, you ended up getting sued a number of times, so I figured that was a problem for you. I didn't realize how much that added up.
Well, it was
to.
also
I know
like this-
the system's expensive.
This case in 2019, jury verdict in North Carolina. None of you knew this. It was like a jury verdict. Woman sues me for defamation for quoting. We quoted Scott Vogel. And Scott Vogel is saying what he said. And they sued, they don't know why they're suing me, they should sue Scott Vogel. And it gets all the way, I had to fight it for like 2 years, it goes all the way right before the verdict, the jury's coming out of the box, and the federal judge gavels the case and goes, and I'm paraphrasing, federal judge, Article 3 judge says, can someone please tell me why we're here? Wow. And the lawyers, the plaintiff's lawyers, these are like the Hillary Clinton sort of group. I don't know how this old woman could afford like 5 lawyers. That's another story. I had 2. One of them was blind. And that was intentional because the jury sympathized with him as much as they did her.
Justice is blind.
Justice is blind. And the judge goes,
Did you?
if you sued, is directed at, this is the transcript, directed at the lawyer. If you sued Mike Wallace, I realize Mike Wallace is dead, 60 minutes. But if you sued Mike Wallace for what you're suing James O'Keefe for, everyone would laugh at you. And you should have seen the look on these lawyers' faces. They were like, whoa, we didn't expect that. So sometimes you have to fight it all the way to the
Legal
end.
fees?
It took, last year we won back 15 grand. Because in the United States,
It's capped.
yeah, right, we got administrative fees back.
Oh, so that covered what, one
Like
response letter?
faxes and like copy scans and things like that. It
Yeah,
covered-
I think people need to understand this. If someone sends you a demand letter or a threat or intent to file,
Wow.
and you go to your lawyer and say, okay, how should we respond to this? They'll say, we'll draft a response, 15 grand, bang.
That's why everyone loves lawyers so much.
Well, I don't blame the lawyers. You've got a firm of people, they got 3 people on it. The really good lawyers charge a lot of money because they're really good and you want to win. But
I mean, look, I get it, but I'm just saying it's absurd. It's ridiculous how expensive. it all is.
but there's a point buried there that I want your audience to understand. I had to fight it all the way. I think that I'm saying the total cost of that one deal, 1.5 mil. 1.5 million. To do the right thing cost me 1.5 million. And what did I get? I got a check for 15 grand 4 years later in crickets. And I'm not complaining.
Wow.
I'm not a victim. I don't want your pity. I don't want your sympathy. I am trying to make a point. Do you know how many late night dinners, how many car rides, how many airplane trips away from my loved ones that I had to take to raise that money to pay those lawyers? And by the way, more power to the lawyers. It's a free market. They deserve to get paid $1,000 an hour, and they won. But the price that has to be paid is so central to the journalism itself. You can't tell the story without also paying that price, and nobody gets that.
But James, wouldn't you have rather spent $1.5 million on like some beachfront property and a land
I could
home or
have.
something?
I could have spent that money on 100 other things. But I cared so much in that federal Article 3 judge, Reitzinger was his name, reading the riot act to those lawyers. And by the way, cameras are not allowed in federal courtrooms. I wish they were. But there's a transcript, you can read it.
I think there's relatively few people left who admire the abstract when it comes to value. I think you're one of them. And what I mean is, as I mentioned before, vanity played a role in why news organizations would do serious investigations, why they would expose government malfeasance, why they would publish the Pentagon Papers or the Afghan war logs and things like that. And it was that it feels good to be recognized for doing something good, and we've lost and we're losing a lot of that in our society. So my assumption, James, is that when it comes on like this, I feel similarly. I say this, would I rather have, like, I don't know, a Ferrari and an infinity pool, or would I rather have really great journalists?
Do you know that when that gavel came down, it's called a Rule 50 directed verdict. Directed verdict means, you know, a judgment notwithstanding the verdict, or right before the verdict. And the judge dismissed the case. Everyone that worked with me in that courtroom was crying. I was crying. Russ Verney at the time,
I can believe that.
our head of our legal department, was crying.
That's not real justice, though. It's 1.5 million.
I cannot describe the feeling it felt like to be
Just
in the right.
monsters.
Every once in a while, there is a taste of justice.
But how did it get so far?
That's a rhetorical question. Our system is a little broken, and the system of justice is broken, and that's horrible.
Could this judge right away just been like, summary dismissal, get out of my courtroom?
Right away.
He's got a duty to get those lawyers
Motion-
paid, let's be honest.
Motion to dismiss. You could have won on motion to dismiss. I mean, I was
With prejudice.
As you
Get out of my
know,
courtroom, don't come back.
we also sued the New York Times for defamation and got past motion to dismiss.
Yeah.
And I was about to head toward, Tucker Carlson was removed from Fox News, and we see all these text messages, right? And let me go through all your phones, Daily Beast, New York Times reporters, and look at your text messages to people. Let me see. If you want to live, let's live in that world. And I was going there, but I'm not in charge anymore.
Oh, so that lawsuit's still ongoing?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder what that's going to turn into.
I mean, somebody meets with somebody else and they say, hey, look, man, this O'Keefe thing's really bad for everybody. Why don't we grease your wheels a little bit and you make it go away?
It's
And then
crazy.
what's it worth?
The way that 501c3s are organized is it's like no-fault divorce. Like, you need 3 people to start a thing, and then the 2 of them can immediately get you thrown out. I don't even think, they just come together and like, we had a board meeting, you're out. You're like, dude, I just paid $6,000 to start this thing. And they're like, yeah, we decided you're out. You're like, where's the charity? Like, I understand you can get free money donated, but
I don't trust nonprofits.
I'm in the process of starting one right now, and it's like, geez, I'm
It's
sweating.
insane. It's so insane.
You have to find really strong people, and the question is, how do you evaluate whether someone is strong? I mean, you don't really know until you go through hell with them. So you have to go through that to establish whether they have testicular fortitude. You know that Henry V quote that we were reciting.
Hold their manhood's cheap.
You're the impressionist, right?
I don't know if I can do it,
For
man.
he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. This story shall the good man teach his son. For he today who goes through hell with me shall be my brother. Be him ne'er so vile, however low born a man may be. This day shall make him a man. And gentlemen in England now abed shall stand accurst they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, while any speaks that fought with us on this day. The people that remain by my side, like RC, I'm getting emotional here, but they're like
Beautiful.
They're like my brothers. They have been through hell. They have been through absolute hell. And I have seen such goodness in people, while also seeing evil. But the things that keep me going is the goodness, in people. And there's a lot of good people out there,
What's some of the best stuff you've seen?
Yeah, I think Adam's getting choked up too.
The people out there in the country who message me and say, I will always have your back and I want to do what you do. and I need your help to do it. Those are people keep me going.
Are you inspiring people to start their own companies?
I want to inspire people to go do what I do, because I think they can take down one man, but they can't take down thousands of people. I think they can defeat one man, but they can't defeat an army. They can't defeat an army of people.
Or multi-million-dollar lawsuits, massive multinational corporations.
I'm ultimately not worried about the money because I think it can be raised. It's not a zero-sum game. If I have to raise $50 million, I'll raise it. Whatever it takes, we'll do it to get the job done. Because there's so many people in this country, like I go to the airports and TSA and backseat of Uber. I mean, the people that like even recognize, I'm sure you get recognized all the time, Tim, but like it's crazy. I mean, I had dinner the other night in a restaurant. Someone came 10 times in a row. They came up to me, and they all say, "Please never give up. Please stop doing. Don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Please don't ever give up." They're begging me.
Yes,
not to give up.
we need many
So
many
that
O'Keefes
keeps me
to go into the belly of the
and,
beast.
I went to a small farm store about 6-7 months ago, and was in there just shopping, little local produce stuff. They asked me what I did, and I was like, oh, I do a political show and stuff. And they're like, oh, really cool, what's it called? And I said, it's called Timcast. And they're like, oh, that's really, really great. And, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, this, that, or otherwise. And they were like, you know who I love? And I was like, who? And they're like, James O'Keefe. He's so great. Do you know James O'Keefe? I'm like, I've heard of him, yeah. He's really great. And they were like, we need more people like him. And I'm just sitting here like, this is really cool. I know that guy.
The balance is like, because people are going to name their kids after you, probably you too, but like, your ego.
Come on, man.
How do you balance your ego? Like, I imagine the last couple of years was fucking insane for you. Like, just so much pressure and focus on you and your name. And like,
That's a good question. And in many ways, you have to be wired a certain way. I think if you're an artist, you're not a political person. I think the game, the process they put you through prevents your ego from being a thing in the first place, because power is nothing more than responsibility. So when you have to raise $100,000 a day, like that'll mess up your ego, because I gotta wake up at 6 a.m. I gotta work till 1 in the morning. I gotta run the company, be the face, be the talent, and deal with all these lawsuits. When you're a witness in federal court, that'll get your ego destroyed real fast. People don't realize that power is nothing more than just responsibility. And when you have all this the FBI came to my apartment, point guns at me, take my stuff. It's like a sword of Damocles hangs over your head. And at any moment in time, and then you think, oh, they're going to get me on obstruction of justice and perjury. That process will humble you real fast. Your office is destroyed by a hurricane. Mine was. I had to rebuild it. I had to raise, so your ego, you'll get destroyed. Your ego will get destroyed. And I think I'm a fortunate man, because this process I've been through over the last 6 months, it humbled me, but it didn't destroy me. And I think that's rare for a man to go through that.
Yeah, there's a really great quote. What you're saying reminds me of the Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen once said that maturity is pain plus responsibility. And I think that rings true here. A lot of people have pain inflicted upon them, but then they don't carry it in a responsible way, and so they never develop as they need to.
They want all of the power with none of the accompanying responsibility. And it's nothing but responsibility when you're in charge of an outfit like that. And it is a spiritual war now. And humility is an ingredient for a work ethic, I think.
You said a moment ago that something to the effect of money is responsibility or power is responsibility.
Yeah.
I think there's an interesting moral dichotomy. The left doesn't agree with the idea of power being responsibility. They believe power is something is for them to wield for their own luxuries and desires. And then there are people on this side who view it as a responsibility to those who have given you a portion of their power so that you can concentrate that. I think about that with what we do here and what our goals are. I see that in what you do and what your goals are. That every day, and I'll get as nerdy as possible for all the anime fans, is Goku doing the Spirit Bomb. For those that aren't familiar, it's in Dragon Ball Z when Goku asks all of the life of the world to lend him
Pretty
powers
nerdy,
so
man.
he can defeat the bad
Pretty
guys.
nerdy.
That's how I view power. Those are the things I grew up seeing. And you know, I know it's dorky, nerdy, whatever for people who aren't fans of anime, but the idea is, as a child, I'm growing up looking up to the heroes who say, please, put a small piece of your power so that I can do something great. The responsibility to wield that power responsibly, the requirement that you do it, is a moral obligation, in my opinion. So, for everybody who gives to timcast.com and becomes members, sure, I could say, we're a for-profit company, I deserve this money, I built it, I'm going to do whatever I want with it. I don't. We launched the Timcast newsroom, which is a financial detriment, in a sense. We lose money having journalists do this work.
As you should.
But we have to do it, because there's two ways I see it. One, we do an opinion news commentary show. It is not the hard, groundbreaking journalism that Project Veritas was doing under you, or what you're doing now with OMG.
But I think you're probably one of the best in the business when it comes to that beat.
I appreciate it, but I also recognize we have to, as people are basically saying, like, we love this show and what you talk about, we're going to give you a small piece of the power that we've accrued so that you can wield it. I don't immediately say something like, oh man, it'd be really cool if I built like a massive skyscraper with an infinity pool. I think, let's hire a whole bunch of journalists and take that energy and focus it into something massively net positive for the world. That's why, even when it comes to like the coffee company we started, I'm in the whole $250,000 on starting the coffee company, because we need to build products that compete in the cultural space. I'm in the whole another couple $100,000 on starting the coffee shop, because we need to compete with woke corporations. I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, if I shut all this down and just did one small YouTube channel where I made 3 videos per day, I would live like a king and never have to sweat ever again. But someone has to be calling out what they see as injustice. Someone has to be like you, James, actually doing the work and inspiring others to go and build strong moral frameworks for our country and inspire people to be good people and to do the right thing. And that is, we have an obligation to the people of our country and our planet to use our abilities.
Hello, Art and Payne. I'm trying to recall this episode with Vince.
I'll say it like this: with great power comes great
He said he
responsibility.
called it for
But power
Project
isn't just one day you
Veritas.
stumbled across a winning lottery
You
ticket.
may have to remind me.
Power isn't just to make a lot of money at your job. Power is you're talented, you're smart, you're capable. I believe that we as humans have an obligation to the best of our abilities, use our gifts so that we can make the world better for everybody else.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's an important Christian belief. We will be held accountable for our talents at the end of our life.
It's
How we use them.
It's
They're a
important
gift.
not to shy away from some kinds of pain. You guys were mentioning pain earlier. I think, how did you phrase that?
It's been a while, though.
Oh,
I hope
yeah,
you've been doing
quoted the
fine.
Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen, or Venerable
Also,
Archbishop
hello
Fulton
to
Sheen. He
Don
said
Frost
that
and
maturity
Julie
is
Gartner there in the
faith
chat.
plus responsibility.
I've been thinking about pain because there's different kinds of pain. There's some types of pain that are like, stop doing this. Whatever is happening right now, make it stop. Because this is an indication of pain that there's damage being done. Then there's other kind of pain that indicates growth. Like the breakdown of muscle so that it can regrow.
That's very true.
Yeah.
If you can withstand that kind of pain and understand the difference between that and actual warning signs.
And another thing that Roseanne Barr told me recently was that, and I hope I'm not breaking her confidence, but I intend to visit with her in Texas soon, is she's a creative, I'm a creative. I don't know about, I assume you're creatively motivated. We're creative.
We make music and art.
Right. You give your music business and everything. I mean, I'm a creative, so that's what motivates me. I'm motivated by creating the project, telling the story, doing the thing. Creative people, this whole process has created a little disillusionment in me, which at first I thought, well, that's not good, because am I going to lose my idealism? But Roseanne Barr told me that what makes a great artist, if you're an artist, illusion separates you from God and separates you from reality. If you're if you're getting rid of your illusions, you're going to do a better job of capturing reality. And we are witness to reality. If you're a reporter, you're reporting on the truth, you're reporting on the world around you. If you're an artist, you're doing the good, the true, and the beautiful. So to be disillusioned, I think, is a good thing. It's a sign of wisdom. And to your point about muscle, that's a great metaphor. Like, I totally agree with that. You go through, I mean, the pain is like beyond. The sword of Damocles, the FBI, that's still ongoing. I'm still under federal.
Disillusionment is wisdom. Don't necessarily look at it as a necessary step to wisdom.
You're stronger for it, and it's going to prepare you for the next thing, which is
It's an unclean
worse.
condition.
But hey, your muscles are bigger. By the way, you guys sound good.
by the way, ripping up 20 pounds of muscle
Do
off
I
my body.
look like I know where the gym is? Yes.
Come on.
Are you a religious man?
I am. I'm a religious man. Yes, I'm a believer.
Were you always?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think no. I think it's changed throughout my life.
Do you find that
Kind of a dumb question is that.
more spiritual?
Definitely. Especially in the last year and a half. I think it about what I don't know what pill there is, white, black, red, green. I don't know how many pills.
All sorts of colors.
I don't even know what that means. But the moment it hit me, the moment I was like, whoa, because I've been doing this since I was college. It was when I was banned from Twitter in April of 2021. That's when it hit me. I was like, this. I said, shit's about to get real. That was the moment for me. For whatever reason, that was just. I woke up. I was like, oh my. They took away my main distribution mechanism.
Wow.
And then Elon let us back on December 2022, a month before the Pfizer story, which was God's timing.
That was your biggest story, right?
Providential.
Praise Jesus. That was the
Amen.
biggest. That was 50 million views.
Wow.
Which is like more views than like the World Cup scoring video. Like that was by a factor of 20.
White pill.
Crazy white pill.
Yeah, that's the white
That
pill.
moment is the white pill. The
What
moment
does that
of
mean?
optimism. You begin to feel that you're on the path of success and that goodness is.
And I confronted that Pfizer guy in the restaurant in New York.
Yeah, it was epic.
Remember this?
And they locked you in.
Oh yeah. Oh,
They
it's fun.
locked me in the restaurant. If you haven't seen this, it's like a sitcom.
It's wild.
And the guy's like a high up at Pfizer, and he's.
I mean, that practically looks
It was
scripted.
Like, I guess false imprisonment in Brooklyn. This is in Dumbo, Brooklyn. And I'm being locked in the restaurant, and the guy is smashing. He takes the iPad out of my hand. I know you do a good Chris Hansen impression.
What do you think you see over there?
That's unbelievable.
Thank you.
What were you thinking messaging a minor?
So I walk up to the Pfizer executive like Chris Hansen. I'm like, "Is this seat taken?"
I remember it was a brilliant video.
What's my line? Forgot my line. It's not-
You're like, can I sit here?
Can I sit? Is this seat taken? And the guy's like, he goes through the 5 stages of grief in 2 minutes.
It's really
He's like,
remarkable.
oh my God, which is the name of my company. That's a double pun. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes, you can't be here. You can't do this. And then he goes, I'm literally a liar.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Literally a liar. It's like, but you
So,
expect me to believe everything.
that was the
you
namesake of
say.
his company, OMG.
And then he
Wow.
proceeds to smash the device as if the only location of the video is on that particular device that I had. He smashed. This is the guy who went to Yale Medical School, smashing. I'm backing up, and I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, I need to make sure that this whole deal is recorded because the cops are coming. Oh man! And then a week later, I was removed from Project Veritas.
It's hard not to think that it was connected. Either that or it was just getting so big that it hit some sort of breaking point.
Right.
I hear a lot of stories where people say something like, "Oh, my friend recommended this mind-altering drug," and I don't mean illegal ones. I mean legal ones. They're like, "Have you thought about anti-anxiety medicine, depression medicine?" People are on how many pills these days?
Yeah.
I think even Family Guy made a joke about it, where Lois like cracks a bunch of different pills, and she's like, all of my different prescriptions, and then eats them, and she's like, tomorrow I'll think this is a new idea, or something like that. Like, something is going on in this country with big pharmaceutical companies in terms of just mass cranking out so many different drugs, and they make such tremendous profits, and they sponsor so many different media organizations that all of a sudden, big companies are like, hey, nobody badmouth our
I
sponsor.
don't know if you saw the story at OMG 2 weeks ago with the Fox News nightly producer saying that the advertising dollars influence and we get money from Pfizer. And I did a podcast with Robert Kennedy. I intend to interview Trump, Kennedy, and DeSantis, but I did an hour-long deal with Kennedy, and he told me a story of when he was talking to someone at Fox, I think it was Ailes at the time, who relayed to him that if you go on the air and talk about this stuff, Rupert Murdoch will kick you off the air. So this is real. This is a real influence. And I think the story is just, to your point, I think more of it's going to come out. I don't think we're not done with the Pfizer beat. Don't you worry.
I think what we see with you, James, with OMG, with what you were previously doing with Veritas, just your work in general and people you've inspired, we need people, young people, growing up, knowing that you will be championed, you will be not only championed by your peers, you will actually do good things that help make the world better if you stand up for on strong moral grounds,
Yes.
reject corruption. And so when I hear that story of the guy in the store, and he works for Pfizer and all that, he said, I'm a liar, and then he tries to smash the device. And I'm thinking about, here's a guy who will privately, to a random person, admit to malfeasance.
Yeah.
But then once he finds out people might realize he's doing wrong, he tries to destroy the evidence and lie about it. Because he knows he is doing evil. And he is scared that people will find out. That's kind of a scary thing.
He literally says it's bad for America in the video.
Right.
It was insane. It was like a cartoon. I literally made a cartoon of it, but it was hard to parody because of how over the top it was. I couldn't believe this guy was openly, and at one point he's like, "You're not like one of those hidden camera guys, are you?" I was, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they can't. That's why people don't do this, because it would expose themselves. It would expose the whole rotten thing. But you're going to say something.
No, we need to get to the point where we restore this sense of, I can't do that, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'll do that as long as no one finds out.
Well, because
that's ridiculous.
Exactly. We don't care if we do the right or wrong thing. We care about our reputation. That's it.
That's right. That's exactly it. There's a weakness. What people are forgetting is, like, it's not necessarily these are bad people. They're weak people. I've seen a lot of weak people, and when you're doing the right thing, sometimes you can't be like a nice guy. You can't just go along with it. You have to take a stand, and that moral compass is everything. The weakness versus the strength is what I would say is the problem. We need strong people. I know it's a cliche, but and then you have to figure out how do you test for that?
I think about that mentality of, this guy does something he knows is wrong and bad and harmful, just as long as nobody finds out. And it's remarkable to me, because I'm wondering, does he have no scruples? Does he have no inner sense of, I just can't bring myself to do this? I just don't understand how people could have this, within them to say, yeah, I got no problem doing it as long as nobody finds out.
Well, there was one time that the Twitter guy was on a date
Curse of
with
hatred.
an undercover journalist, and he goes, "Don't tell anybody this. But here's a secret email that the Project Veritas sent out, and our reporter has to mispronounce Project Veritas in order to not be burned." So every
I laughed at that. I was like,
Project Veritas.
No offense to like your reporter, but I was like, that is the most, like, I'm clearly pretending not to be in Project Veritas statement I've ever heard. And the guy still keeps confessing.
I'm sitting here and I'm being texted by my team, and they're reminding me that every time they're on an assignment, the reporters are, the subjects are asking, are you at the hidden cam? Are you working with James O'Keefe? They always say that.
And then they still tell them
Well,
all
they
all their
still
information.
Everything.
That's insane.
Everything. Because it has to do with, I guess, a narcissistic trait in humans, where they just can't admit that, how did you put it? They can't admit they're wrong. How did you say that earlier? Because you were on point. Evil exists in people, and
They're fine with doing it so long as no one finds out.
that's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
I think what happens there is sort of a microcosm of a much larger human problem, which is that when
They're
people
fine
don't
with
develop
doing it
virtue,
so long as no
what
one
they've
finds
essentially
out.
failed to do is subjugate their emotions or their passions to reason. So even though they know, okay, it wouldn't be reasonable for me to tell someone I barely know every borderline illegal or flat out illegal or unethical thing I'm doing at work, I feel like I want to in the moment, so I'm going to.
Right. And one of the
It's harnessing impulsivity.
From an undercover reporter, someone saying, "Here, they say, hey, yes, you want to check me? You want to check my body?" And they'll never do it. And the thing about it psychologically is that undercover work is about asking them about themselves. People have talked about themselves, so it's remarkable what people will confess if you express interest in them personally. Oh,
You're familiar with this meme? Remember this one?
yeah.
This is the hot, crazy access for women you date. And it's like, if a woman is a 5 or below, you don't, it's like a no-go zone.
It's a little bit of a
If
tangent, Tim.
she's, the crazy access is a 10, it's a no-go zone. And then you have the crazy zone, the fun zone, the date zone. And then women who are not crazy and super attractive, it's James O'Keefe.
It's fine. Or it's a dude, isn't it? The lower right when it's. They replaced that with James O'Keefe.
Right.
Yes.
So this was after the Twitter thing when we were like, I can't remember
We
who
were
said it.
cracking up. No, we were watching it laughing, and then you and I were
No,
coming up with all these jokes.
someone tweeted it. They were like, if you are a mildly unattractive tech engineer for a big tech company, and this hot woman is asking you about the inner workings of your company. It's James O'Keefe.
Well, I just love the idea. I mean, are these people watching pickup artist videos where the pickup artist is like, you want to get a girl? Tell her every illegal thing you've ever done on a first date. Drives you crazy.
You see the story we did last week on Fetterman, where the guy, this is Fetterman's aide, he carries around his stuff, and he's, you probably do a great impression, but he's like,
I'm not incoherent enough.
we just use the journalists as puppets, like they do everything we tell them to. They're not skeptical, like he's bragging about this, and the dude in the Pfizer, he's bragging about, mutating viruses and hurting people. Why would, they're bragging about these things to try to what, to get laid?
I think I know what it is. Well, I think that's part of it. I think when someone is doing something horrible, they feel a need for that behavior to be accepted by other people. Right? Their conscience is bothering them, and they want to sit across from somebody who will say, yeah, of course there's nothing wrong with that, or I agree, that's really funny and interesting, so that when those thoughts come into their mind that maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, they can try to fall back on, well, the other people I've spoken to approve of it.
They're dying to confess.
This is what
They're desperate to confess.
the people who are in your face about their lifestyle choices the most are always the people who feel guilty about what they're doing, and they need your approval because they don't have the approval of their conscience.
They need
profound.
confession.
That's true. That's profound. That's very true. I don't think anyone's ever spoken about this in this way. By the way, some of them don't. We don't find them on dating apps. In fact, the one guy, reporter that works for me, got the guy in December in Chicago to talk about remember the dildo butt plug story?
Oh, enlighten me.
The private school.
I don't remember.
Remember the dildo butt plug? Okay,
I don't know if I want to remember.
The private school, the head of a private school in Chicago, talks about giving out these things to children.
Oh my God.
And he met that man in an airport security line. So
Wow.
that's how he got that.
Did he have to I'm going to the bathroom and then put the camera on and oh jeez.
He winning friends and influencing people, and the confession thing you said is very profound. It's really true.
Dude, confession is innately necessary for humans, man. The religion had it.
Correct.
The church, and then I was
That's
doing
right.
it with internet video. You can
Yeah.
tell the world your secrets. It's
Agreed,
humiliating, but you can't.
Julie.
And they stop popping into your head. Like you stop.
Your
getting
conscience
distracted.
becomes clear when you tell someone this thing, and that's why I say we hold a mirror up to people.
I think Seamus nailed it. I think a lot of these people, it's a joke that we've pointed out where, a guy meets a woman, he sits down and says, hey babe, you want to hear about all the illegal things my company does? And like it's going to score them, but that's not it. Seamus, I think, nails it in that the moment they engaged in something they knew was wrong, their mind said, you are doing wrong, stop. And they weren't strong enough to say no. So when they sit down with someone in private, they're looking for validation.
Exactly.
They're begging, please tell me I'm a good person.
And I think there's an additional element that wants validation.
I'm gonna have to analyze this one. This is interesting.
Wants validation as well. They want to hear that.
Both
person
parties
say,
making some good
"You're
points.
better than this. Stop."
Yeah.
This is profound dialogue here about what we do and how it works. The confession. I think that's right. And there's this one example I have in my mind of Charlie Chester, who was a CNN guy about years ago. And the whole time he's waxing euphoric about how much propaganda CNN is. He never looks into the eyes of the person across the table from him. It's almost like he's talking to himself or to, a monologue, not with the person. He doesn't even care about them. He's just listening to himself talk. So their conscience goes against their own actions, for sure.
Yep.
You can tell a lot by looking at somebody's eyes. The brain, because it says the brain. The eyes are connected directly to the brain. Like it can't.
Okay, here we go. Another weird point.
Well, I think it's more than just the brain, right? Because humans, we're not just bodies, we're body-soul composite. And there is a there there. Right? You can tell you're not just looking at matter when you look into somebody's eyes. There's something else. We're not mere mechanical components. There's something more to us.
Yeah, and the way it's moving, you can tell it's vibrating, different ways depending on what they're thinking.
Well, even vibration puts it in a material way. Like there's something immaterial that we can't understand.
The conscience thing is really interesting to me because when in your life did someone come to you and say, son,
Seems like they got a bunch of introverts in a room.
First day.
But I know at least some of them are extroverts.
If you're a pharmaceutical company and they ask you to engage in gain-of-function research, I need you to say, no, son, it's wrong. That never happens in your life. So something throughout this person's life generated the moral understanding that this practice would be wrong.
What do you think that is?
Well, I wonder if there is something genuinely immaterial in that we know when we're doing good or bad. It more relates to, do we know that this is going to be harmful to the world and our fellow man? And I think maybe that's just there could be something more metaphysical, or maybe it's simply that we know the destruction of the planet, we know that harming others is just inherently wrong, and working to those ends is wrong.
Yeah.
But they want to justify it somehow and be told everything's okay, you're a good person.
Well, I think we have a culture that celebrates vice and denigrates virtue, and as I mentioned earlier, when we're referring to virtue, what we're really referring to is subjugating your impulses, your passions, your emotions to reason, doing the right thing in spite of the way you feel.
Indeed, it's
What we
pretty good.
encourage people to do systematically over the last several decades is to orient themselves towards pleasure as the highest good. And that includes ignoring your conscience, ignoring reason, ignoring your values, just doing what feels good. And what results from that is a person who is incapable of going against their own passions in doing what's right. And so, other people not liking you, it makes you feel bad. They don't want that negative consequence of their nefarious behaviors, but the conscience part of it doesn't factor in as often until they need to silence it by getting your approval.
No, bro, it's much easier than that. They sell these wonderful little pills that turn that conscience right off. So you've got people who know it's wrong.
That's true. That's
Yes.
true. Yeah.
This is the vision that I'm seeing as you're explaining this. I'm imagining some morbidly obese woman eating her 5th bowl of nachos with her brain screaming, "Stop doing this!" And she goes, "Oh, the negative thoughts are coming back."
Yeah.
Boop.
That's right.
Negative thoughts are gone.
Sometimes you're supposed to feel negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are not a disease. Sometimes they're a symptom of you doing something wrong and you have to stop doing that thing instead of medicating yourself.
There are people who can't feel pain.
Yeah.
They are physically incapable.
Conception.
And I've heard a lot of people say, "Wow, that would be so awesome to not have to feel pain." And what they don't realize is it's actually terrifying and dangerous.
They almost pull their eyes out as infants.
And
It's a real thing.
they can't sweat.
Yeah.
Because the pain is, what I read was that certain people who can't experience pain, their body can't regulate temperature because they don't have that sensation of discomfort. And so they could easily overheat and die. They also sometimes could bite through their tongue when they're little kids. They can seriously injure themselves and not know. Crazy stories. Hardship is a good thing. Nagging negative feelings, not always bad things. I understand sometimes there's chemical imbalance, depression, and anxiety where people are having a disorder.
Right.
But perhaps if you are unhappy, not everybody, I know, sometimes people are, clinically or medically depressed, but perhaps you need to do better by yourself. You need to eat right, you need to exercise, take responsibility
So
for
are
your
people
life.
born with the spark of the divine, and it is through the drugs and the what they're exposed to?
We suppress it.
We suppress it, but they're born with that desire. Because I feel like the word truth, speaking the truth, makes people feel free.
It does set
The
you free.
the subjects that I write, the truth shall set you free. Veritas vos libera vit. Speaking the truth makes you feel free. And in many ways, this guy's good. I've never said it. I've never heard it said that way.
Thank you.
I mean, the subjects are engaging in confession, which
Yeah.
makes them feel it's therapy for them.
Yeah.
But the difference is they don't get absolution.
Yep.
That is the difference.
They don't.
Or maybe
because
they
the thing
do
about
when the video
confession-
goes live.
Well, no, because the difference is when you
So
go
it's
to
imaginary
confession,
absolution.
When you go confess to a Catholic priest with true contrition, you're actually sorry, you're actually making a resolution not to do it again. You're not going in there and saying, "This is the thing I did, please give me your approval." You're saying, "This is wrong. I know it was wrong. Please absolve me. I'm sorry." Right? But that's not what they're doing. They want to confess it, but in a way where they don't admit it's wrong, and they get your approval.
They want
because
the inverse.
your approval is their God.
James, you're effectively an inverse priest for them in a certain way, where instead of saying, "Admit you were wrong," they're saying, "Please tell me I wasn't."
Exactly.
There's something to that
And
because
then expose it. But real quick, sorry, I just wanted to add, what these people need to understand, and what always breaks my heart about the videos that you put out, James, when it's like a Twitter engineer who says, "Yeah, we're doing these things," why wasn't he a whistleblower? Why didn't he say, "I am going to reach out to James O'Keefe personally and of my own volition and tell him about these horrible things they're doing"?
I have a good answer for that. It's one word, 2 syllables. Paycheck.
yeah, the god of money. That's what I've been thinking
Which is
about.
I wasn't, that's not really what motivates me, but a lot of, otherwise, I thought decent people will just stay there for the paycheck, I think. And we've talked about, Tim, you and I talked about this before, well, that they're cowards. Yeah, there's something to that. But I think that's changing in society. To be a little optimistic here, I think people now care more about doing the right thing more than they ever have. But they need a leader. They need someone to follow. People. Like, I have to give people permission. Like, people are watching from the sidelines with a pinky toe in the pool. They're drafting an email right now to O'KeefeTips@protonmail.com. Should I do this? I got the mortgage, I got the wife, I got the this, like, it's always the wife or something like this. I've got the kids, and I always say, like, you got the kids, okay, well, but your kids, don't they want to look up to their parents? And don't they, I mean, I had someone tell me, oh, you're really lucky you don't have children. And one day I'll be a father, hopefully soon. But, like, really? I'm lucky I don't have children?
Yeah.
I would think that my children would hopefully look up to someone who stands on principle, even if it costs me my paycheck. You know, these are. There's nothing new under the sun. We've talked about these concepts for millions and thousands of years, but I think things are changing. I really do. People are.
You mentioned people on the sidelines, and they need permission. I've had so many people ask me, especially, when I was working for Vice, when I was on the ground field reporting, I would get these emails and people would say, how do I do what you do? And I'd say, oh, it's really, really easy. Take out your phone, press record. There you go. Have a nice day. And they're shocked, like, what? That can't be right. I'm like, dude, I was living in New York filming things that were going on there. Like, I went there for $20 on a bus to Occupy Wall Street, and I just started filming stuff. So, like, when you told the story of the woman who, you said, have you gone to your public school meetings? I know I couldn't.
Looks like the Baron's here.
People who don't realize there is nothing stopping you from entering the fray of the political.
Fear, right? Fear of unknown.
Sure, but I mean, like, I thought about this when I was younger. How do you get involved in, say, like, the conversation we are having? Someone might be wondering, like, how do I get on a show like that? Well, you just start doing these things. You show up to events, you speak, you be present in the moment, you film, you record. There are a lot of people who got started by just showing up and being like, hey, I'm here, here's what I think. And then more and more people start noticing they're there and they think things and they're speaking out. More and more people started going to school board meetings and speaking up and getting attention. You just have to do it. Be the person leading the charge.
Also, ditch hedonism.
Have to kind of create a culture of it, like Miami Heat culture in basketball.
It's detriment. You gotta embrace pain, and it sounds sadistic to say that, because like not all kinds. Don't seek it out.
It's not sadistic.
It's
No,
gonna
you're
be
right.
there. It's there right now. Gravity is painful. We're being sucked down and twisted to this earth. It hurts.
Well,
They deal with
the first chapter of the book I wrote, American Muckraker, is called Suffering. The first chapter is about pain, and I read, because of Jordan Peterson, Gulag Archipelago, and the Solzhenitsyn guy talks about in the gulags, and there's this one part of this story that just rarely resonated with me. He's in the gulags. We always joke that I'm going to go to the gulags, right? It's like, joke.
Yeah.
They're liking that Tim needs to go through his redemption arc ever since Eliza Blue, and some would argue that Tor also has to go through one.
Which is very profound. I said, aren't you worried these pharmaceutical companies are going to kill you? He goes, there are things in life worse than dying. So Solzhenitsyn says he's in the gulags, and there's a hunger strike, and he writes about this. Because when you're on a hunger strike, you retain some of your own power over the guards, and that gives you a sense of empowerment, because now you have the power over the forces of evil that are imprisoning you. And one of the guys in the hunger strike decided, you know what, I'm too hungry, I'm going to go eat that piece of bread. And I'm paraphrasing, but Solzhenitsyn describes that the pain of, these people are all starving, he's starving to death. The pain of the betrayal of the comrade who ate the bread was so much greater than the pain of the starvation. So
I don't know, go ahead.
to your point about suffering, it's like,
Starvation's
what
pretty
I've
bad.
been through, I don't view it as a bad thing, because I think that pain completes the process of muscle development. And I have zero regrets. It is going to make me a more effective messenger. It's going to make me understand who's real and who's good and who's phony and who's fake. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We want to know who's.
Can't argue with that.
Bread. And I always say to my friends, say to my colleagues, don't eat the bread in the gulags, all right? Don't eat that bread.
Well, if when we find ourselves in that gulag, James, I will share my bread with you.
Share your bread with the
For the record,
We'll make sure you're doing
the Gulag was the department that oversaw the prisons. The prisons weren't actually called gulags.
Fair enough.
Fair point. We're gonna go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com because the members-only show will be coming up at about 10 or so p.m. A few minutes afterwards, goes live on the front page of timcast.com. And for those that are members at the $25 or more level, or you've been a member at any level for at least 6 months.
Okay, I'm going to shut this one down. But I thank you all for watching. I think this is somewhat of a historical event. Project Veritas going after James O'Keefe because of the damage and destruction he did to the company by going his own way. Completely remarkable. It's just a total mask-off moment, and it's going to pretty much sully the rest of PV's reputation. I got my streaming software running pretty good now, so if there are any other exciting news stories that break, I will try to go with another impromptu stream. But again, thanks for participating in this. Peace. Have a good rest of your evening.